Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle with the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Thank you everyone for staying with us here on Global Television. This is Iyag Mofwebe. Welcome you so specially to Global Morning. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. It's Wednesday, 27th day in the month of September, just a matter of 3 days before it's 30 days in the month of September. But today happens to be a public holiday. Happy celebration, happy commemoration to our Muslim brothers who are today commemorating Eid al-Maulud. We understand that amongst other things, it's a time to reflect, and then of course it's also a time to show love and then engender unity in the way we live with our neighbors and those even far beyond our neighborhoods. But of essence is that it also marks the birth of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So we'll be talking about all of this in the course of our show today. We want to see how Muslims are commemorating, what it means for the Muslim faithful, and then of importance as well, how the element of love and the unity in it also can help drive cohesion for a country like Nigeria that is apparently in a very bad place with regards to issues around national unity and the kind of thinking that transcends ethnicity, religion, and tribalism. We have to look at all of those on the show today. It is not enough for politicians across board every other time such as this to say it's an opportunity for Nigerians to live in unity when we have some of these politicians who deliberately, sometimes inadvertently, divide Nigerians across religious, ethnic, and tribal lines just because they want to win a seat at the State House of Assembly, at the Senate, House of Representatives, or just in the bid to become a state governor. The second issue we want to look at on the program this morning rests squarely on the subjects of poverty. In this day and age, you even hear less of poverty. The buzzword has become multi-dimensional poverty. What exactly does it mean? In the last 2 years, reports from multilateral institutions, especially the World Bank, continue to expand the brackets of poverty, or the poverty bracket of Nigeria. Last year, we were told that at least 133 million Nigerians live in poverty, and just this year, a few weeks ago, we were told at least 4 more million people, 4 million, have been added into the bracket. So that brings it to a total of 137 million. What are the implications of this? Recall too that the renewed hope agenda of this government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu has also been a very strong, pivotal conversation in light of the promises embedded in it, all aimed at getting Nigeria out of the woods, whether it's its economy, its infrastructure, education, health, and even system of governance. So it's a potpourri of several factors in one. So we're going to unbundle for you in the course of our show this month, but we'll take a quick break, everyone. When we return, we will take a look at the papers for you. Let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper for you this morning. A big story, NLC-TUC as expected. Okay, NLC-TUC starts nationwide indefinite strike October 3. About 3 riders accompany that headline. Say no meaningful dialogue with government. Urge Nigerians to stockpile food items, other necessities. Directs state councils affiliates to step up mobilization. Okay, but incidentally, the president, will address the nation on the 1st of October, which is on Sunday. However, the NLC, the TUC, if you like, the organized labor, now saying to Nigerians on the 3rd, which is Tuesday, 2 days, just 2 days after the president would have delivered his nationwide address on October 1, will shut down the economy by way of nationwide industrial action. So the question naturally will be, is there any chance that the president's speech on Sunday, the 1st of October, will positively disrupt this planned strike in such a way that the organized labor will now find reasons to not embark on this proposed strike? Because we also understand on October 1, amongst other things, the president will unveil a new pay package for workers in the country. Will that be enough? Because Labour had met with the leadership of the House of Representatives yesterday, and then the NLC and the TUC also had their meeting at about dinner time yesterday. So it's been a series of meetings back and forth. The question, however, is going forward, to what extent will these meetings influence some harmonious, cordial resolution of all of the issues that the organized labor has been having with the federal government? We keep our fingers crossed, and we'll bring you all of the details as events unfold in this regard. But let's see 3 big headlines again above the nameplate of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. One here on page 8 with a picture of the CBN governor, who, by the way, until yesterday had been acting governor of the CBN. Now we understand he has been confirmed by the committee of the whole, which is the Senate. All right. It says Senate clears Cardoso, 4 others as CBN governor, deputy governors. It was quite interesting yesterday as the deputy governor himself reeled out plans. All right. Evidence-based action plan that he has proposed for the Central Bank of Nigeria with regards to the fiscal and monetary policy elements of the economy. All right. NGE commends Southeast governors on security initiative. National security remains precarious amid numerous successes, as Speaker Abbas there talking. We didn't mandate anyone to negotiate with bandits, defense ministers. That's with regards to the Zamfara abduction of female students at the Federal University. We are committed to fighting illicit drugs, Tinubu, insecurity. FG boosts army operations with attack helicopters. Nigeria, restructure or reconfigure. That's the 5th episode in this series by Afe Babalola, SAN. AFCON 2025-2027 host nations. Nigeria, Benin in forefront. That's on sports. Okay, then let's take a look at Daily Trust now before we get our first discussion on this morning. Right beneath the nameplate, Leah Sharibu, Dom's first husband, remarries another ISWAP commander. That's a pathetic story there on page 25 of today's issue of Daily Trust newspaper. Shetima says economy will pick up in 15 months. You can see stories on details of the story on page 20. Okay, Gombe Tribunal upholds Governor Inuwa Yahya's re-election, dismisses PDP's petition. Zamfara varsity abduction survivors narrate ordeals in hands of bandits. My son, granddaughter, over 50 others abducted. Eyewitness. Varsity not fenced. Poorly policed. Attack the 3rd on institution. Attack the third on institution, which means it's not the first, neither is it the second, going by the report on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper today. Malud, Tinubu, Shetima, Atiku, Akpabio, Barau preach tolerance. Labour to embark on indefinite strike October 3. Circumstances surrounding Mohbad's death will be unveiled in due time. Naramali. Forex crisis, transparent rules are my immediate priorities. That's according to Cardoso, the newly appointed governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. We're taking a quick break now. When we return, we'll start talking about multi-dimensional poverty in Nigeria. Do stay with us. We're joined by our first guest this morning who help us make sense of the issue of poverty in Nigeria, the challenge it poses, the implications for our dear nation, and how we can find our way out of it. Destiny Owobu is an economic and statistical analyst. He joins us live via Zoom from Benin City, Edo State. Destiny, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to have you here too.
Excellent. So I'm going to, for a couple of years, you and I, obviously not on this platform, we have talked about poverty, issues around the economy, and the will part to deal with all of these challenges. But I want us to now look at how that in recent times, we talk less about poverty. Now it will appear the more fashionable term is multi-dimensional poverty. Walk me through that real quick, please.
Yeah, of course. The difference basically is in the regular poverty statistics. They are usually income focused. We use an income measure to measure poverty normally, and so you hear things like number of people who live on less than $1 a day, or $1.99 a day, or $2 $2 a day. So such measures are mainly income focused, and they tend not to look at other aspects of poverty that has to do with access to healthcare, access to education, access to social amenities like water and security and things like that. So we economists have come to the conclusion that poverty is multidimensional, and there's no need to use the income measure only, because income does not reflect poverty rates across the world. Somebody in Nigeria may be earning a lot of money, but when you compare him to somebody else in somewhere, let's say New Zealand, their incomes may be comparable, but they have different access to public works. Different access to social amenities, different access to infrastructure, different access to educational opportunities, different access to health opportunities. Healthcare. So multidimensional poverty is a more rounded statistic to measure the amount of poverty in the country, the amount of deprivation, the amount of the quality of life of the average people in that country. So it's just a migration to a better measure.
The Human Development Index for Nigeria have not looked very good. Now the removal of fuel subsidy, that's payments on petrol subsidy, is said to have further complicated that challenge in itself. The World Bank is now saying that at least 4 million more Nigerians have been thrown into poverty, making it 137 million in all. That is apparently a huge number. Let's talk about how much more work we will need to do as a country to be able to deal with this challenge?
Yes, like I've always said, when we are dealing with issues of national construction, we need what we call the crane method. The crane method means you don't tackle big problems using small solutions. Like I always tell people, you don't put down a wall using pebbles. You use crane machines. You use heavy duty machines to put it down. So Nigeria's poverty, when you have 136 million poor people in a country, in a population of about 210 million people, that's roughly more than 70% of the people are poor. You don't solve such problems using palliative measures, using the basic poverty immunizing strategies. What you need are big measures. First of all, you need to understand the causes of poverty. You know, most measures simply deal with the consequences of poverty. They are not looking at the causes. What are the causes of poverty? Poverty is basically caused by one, loss of skills, loss of jobs, and loss of opportunities. Those are the inherent causes of poverty. So when we talk about poverty, it's a big problem that we need to identify from the root causes. Why are people poor in the first place? Because the economy is weak, they have no access to good quality jobs, their income earning potential is very limited. So this poverty in Nigeria is highly correlated with the level of underdevelopment of this country, with the level of improper education. We don't have enough education. Just imagine the number of out of school children in this country, one of the highest in the world. We don't have access to professionals. As I'm talking to you right now, professionals in this country, they are leaving for other countries because even the professionals do not have opportunities to get good jobs in this part of the world. So you can see that poverty is a very holistic concept. It requires big solutions. And what are the big solutions? Big investments in infrastructure, big investment, foreign investment to the country in terms of production of goods and services, big investments into social health care, big investments into social transportation and things like that. So we need big billion-dollar investments all around the sectors of the economy to be able to jumpstart an income earning cycle. Otherwise, what we are having now is immeasurizing growth. Every part of the Nigerian economy is hit with serious poverty issues. Check the exchange rate of Nigeria currently. Difficult for importers to bring things to this country. Check the price of petrol. In developed countries, the average cost of transportation out of income is just between 16 to 20% of income. That's the average cost of transportation and food and things like that. But in Nigeria, currently we spend roughly 30 to 40% of our income on only transportation and food and basics, having little or nothing for basic savings. When that happens, people are in a poverty trap. In a poverty trap, you can't get out of the poverty trap because you earn income, you have no savings, you spend it on basic necessities like transportation, food, clothing. You don't have more income for human capital development, training, upgrading your skills. You don't even have income for, doing other things like, for instance, setting up companies, building investments. So what Nigerians are barely in a survival mode. And that is happening to 70% of the population. People just simply live for the day. So we don't have a long-term plan to take these people out of poverty because we are dealing with the stopgap measures, for instance. And these stopgap measures, we talk about palliatives, talked about social palliative, trader money programs. We have tried all this before. We have school feeding programs, trader money programs, subsidy programs, palliative. Those palliative measures are immeasurizing. They are stopgap measures. We need big solutions. What is the volume of foreign direct investment entering this country? Those are the big questions. When last did you hear of an investor bringing $100 billion into the Nigerian economy? Those are the things that will take people out of poverty. Two, when last did you hear that government constructed a major road that connected 7 states together that will provide a lot of jobs for people in the process? When last did you hear companies coming to this country, 6, 7, 8, come and make investment in critical sectors of the economy? What happens to our steel sector? What is happening to the amount of steel we produce in this country? We have steel deposits in Alaja and Ajakuta. How much volume of steel do we produce? What happens to our refineries, petrochemical industry? How much investment is going into those sectors? What is happening to education itself? How much education do we invest in? Current education is philosophical education. How much have we invested into technical aspects of education that will create jobs? People are going tech now. How much is the federal government committed to ensuring that at least 10, 20 million Nigerians are tech experts in the next 10 years? This requires strong visioning, strategic plans. You can't take people out of poverty by using whimsical methods, palliative measures. So while we are doing palliative in the interim, we should have a long-term plan, a 10, 20-year plan on how to jumpstart people out of this society. And that requires us to start with good governance. When we don't have good governance, then these investors that will bring this money from these developed economies will not come to Nigeria, no matter how much we try to do public relations. What we need is action plans. We need to reduce the cost of doing business in this country. We need to show a willingness to fight corruption. We need to show a willingness to upgrade our systems to play internationally. Without doing these big things, poverty will just be a recurring decimal. It has been on for about 15 years. We are still working on it. We are making no serious effort to take out poverty out of this country. In fact, about 4 years ago, Bill Gates, an American, came and told the Nigerian government to his face that it is not addressing the problems of poverty. What we are simply doing is ameliorating the problem, and that does not do anything, because when you are trying to take people out of poverty, we call that poverty alleviation. What Nigeria needs to get out of poverty is not poverty alleviation. What we need is wealth creation. There's another term. We should get out of the poverty matrix and get into the wealth creation matrix. That requires education, investment in healthcare, investment in transportation, investment in petrochemicals, investment in steel, investment in manufacturing, investment in agriculture, huge investment. While we're also operating around the governance cycles, we need good governance. We must operate according to corporate governance rules to ensure that this private investment worldwide, trillions of dollars flying around the world, flies to Nigeria, and we capture the part we can capture. I must tell you, as I speak to you right now, only 3% of world investments come to Africa, and Africa controls 1.6 billion people. 3% of world investment is located in Africa. That's a misnomer. If you have 1.6 billion people in a continent where the world is about 7.5 billion, we should be able to attract at least 40% of the worldwide investment. You would have asked the question, why don't they come to Africa? Why don't they come to Nigeria? One, we don't have the required skills to capture these funds. Two, we have a corrupt society that investors read about on newspapers and they don't want to bring their money here. Three, we also have a system of weak infrastructures. Without support infrastructures, how do you expect a company like Mercedes-Benz to come to Nigeria that runs a 24-hour factory to come to Nigeria where we have epileptic power supply? How do you expect these companies to come to this country when they hear reports of kidnappings, reports of torture, reports of religious intolerance, reports of secessionist states trying to take over, getting out of the country? These kind of things do not help investment. To get people out of poverty, you need massive investment in the society. And this investment has to be sustained by a strong ethic, a strong work culture, something that is seriously lacking in this country. So the government must be serious, take the bull by the horn, and deal with these problems headlong. They are not simple problems that we can wish away or use small $5 billion to say we want to reduce poverty. We should be thinking about wealth creation. We should use the Chinese model. We should use the Singapore model. The way they did this thing was to send people to developed countries, train them on hardcore skills, and then these people return to their countries and build mega companies. So when you hear of these mega companies in China, all of them came from a well-organized government system and the people learning upgraded skills, which is required to generate wealth for themselves. You can't help poverty by taking it away. You help poverty by creating wealth. It's like light and darkness. If you don't want darkness in a room, you put on the light. So we are not putting on the light. We are talking about the darkness. We should be thinking about getting the sources of electricity, getting the light on, getting our factories on, getting our schools running, our healthcare centers. Everything should be running. That's how to take people out of poverty. But that is not what the government is doing at the moment. And that is worrisome, because we'll be having these poverty issues for so many decades now. And I have not seen any major bold action plan be taken to solve that problem. And until we do that and allow trillions of dollars to flow into this economy, billions of dollar investments, we are not solving the problem. We are dealing with the side aspects of the problem. We are ignoring the big problems. And the big problems is we need to educate our people. We need to upskill them. We need to build confidence in this economy, such that even Nigerians will be proud to invest in their own country. What we are having now is people are not very confident about this country, so it's affecting our investment space, it's affecting our income space. So that's my 2 cents on the issue.
Interestingly, as you and I talk on this program right now, Labour, I mean the organized Labour, I probably should say, is still having its back and forth with the federal government. As a matter of fact, Labour had met with the leadership of the House of Representatives just yesterday. As of today, I mean, it's out there in public space. Labour says on the 3rd of October, which happens to be next Tuesday, it will shut down the country. In fact, Labour is now saying that members of the public should stockpile food so they are not stranded while the proposed indefinite nationwide strike lasts. However, we understand, as it is traditional and ceremonial, President Tinubu will address the country on Sunday, being the 1st of October. Again, the important point I'm trying to highlight here is the fact that all of the things that Labour agitates about are purely economic in nature. One of them, we're understanding now that Labour is asking for an upward review of wage. Does more salary ultimately solve the problem of poverty?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. There's so called real incomes in economics, and it is what money can buy that is eventually the basic measure of economic welfare, not money itself. We must understand something. The current subsidy regime did not create poverty in Nigeria. It only pushed more people into poverty. Now, in a fast rising prices economy like what we have in Nigeria now, the inflation rate has jumped high. The unemployment rate is also very high at the moment. What you need are structural reforms, not face value reforms like raising people's salary. So, but in the interim, it is a short-term measure. They are all still short-term measures. Even if the federal government doubles the salary structure in Nigeria, let's assume that we double it. Now, prices have increased 3 times in the last 1 year. So what happens? Okay, the problem is that when you raise wages, the prices will also nudge up a little because of the increase in wages. So we are not really solving the problem. What we need is to diversify the economy. Okay, so Labour should be agitating more around diversifying the economy, investment in critical sectors of the economy. The emphasis on always thinking about labor in terms of salaries, in terms of income, is myopic and redundant. Labour should be more interested in what is the government doing with our refineries? What is the government doing with expanding the economy? What is the government doing with expanding the tax buoyancy of the economy? Not tax receivable, the buoyancy. What is the strength of the economy to support itself using a tax system? Because currently we are supporting ourselves with crude oil money. It's a monoproduct economy like Nigeria is going nowhere in terms of development. So Labour should be agitating the full spectrum of issues that we have in this country. Salaries are just a minute aspect of the problem. Doubling the salary will not solve the problem. What will solve the problem is there should be serious governance. Labour should be talking about government, how much is happening, what is happening to our exchange rate. Labour should be more interested in that. What is happening to our production capacities? Why are refineries not working? I would like to see a situation where Labour grounds the economy to force the government to get our refineries working. If there are people that need to be fired in that organization, in the NNPC, to make that organization work and stand up to responsibilities and build refineries and make sure they are functional, then we need to be talking about that. Salaries in developed countries, the government does not employ the largest, it's not the largest employer. So we talk about government a lot in this country because everybody somehow, over 60% of Nigerians derive their income directly or indirectly from the government. That's not how it's supposed to be. What we are supposed to have here is a situation where we have about at least 10 million corporations that employ thousands of workers. You know, the highest, one of the biggest employers of labor in this country are banks and maybe basic manufacturers. And we don't have any company in this country that employs at least 20,000 workers. That is not what we should be thinking about. We should be thinking about diversifying the economy, ensuring that we increase the employment generation potential of the economy. So these labor issues, to me, is just like, I mean, the regular issues we have. They are dealing with just the palliative aspects of it. You try to increase incomes, and so what happens? Prices catch up. You try to increase incomes again, prices catch up again. So that's a stopgap measure. What we need is a sustainable model of development, and labor should be agitating around structural reforms on the economy. Structural reforms I want to recommend: one, what is happening to our educational sector? We should reorganize our education to focus on obtaining technical skills and competence. Two, what is happening to our manufacturing? What is government doing about our manufacturing? We should be seeing direct policies that encourage investment into manufacturing the goods that we consume. We are not even talking about producing for the world yet. We can't even produce products for ourselves. We have not attained self-sufficiency in any important product that we consume. That is a problem. The government should be developing competence around that area. Go and check our trade balances. You see that Nigeria spends billions of naira importing goods we have no business importing. So we should set Nigeria up as a factory, first of all, to feed itself. Then we'll not think about feeding other countries and selling products to the outside world. That requires a think tank group of people who come together, work with government. We need a lot of collaboration along several levels. Labor, the investment community, the Manufacturers Association Group of Nigeria. We need people on all fronts to be working with the federal government. When you want to solve a simultaneous equation problem like what we have in Nigeria, Nigeria has a multi-dimensional problem. So we don't need a unilateral solution, like a minor solution like using salaries. We need a solution that is collaborative from an investment angle, from the income angle, from the social welfare angle, from the public sector, from the labor groups, from all groups that are important. We need to be housing them in big investment summits to ensure that we pull lots of investment into this economy. We need private capital to augment government weak finances. I said something, the entire budget of Nigeria is not even up to $50 billion. $50 billion for a country of 210 million people is meager. Government, with all its resources, cannot develop Nigeria. What we need is government partnering with private capital from around the world to come to this economy and invest another $200 to $300 billion on this economy in the next 5 years. That will shift the economy's focus away from government to the private capital, because private businessmen tend to have a better way of running businesses than the public sector. We cannot put our economy at the mercy of the public sector. So labor should be engaging at that level. I know in the interim, because of the weak structure of our economy, the only thing they can agitate for at the moment is just to talk about salary increases and things like that. But they are miniature to the problems that we face. We need big solutions, and that requires strategic discussions, not discussions about increasing salary and others.
Final notes. Look at, I mean, you used the term in your narrative a while ago, visioning. You said we need to adopt, amongst other things, visioning. Let's look at the renewed hope agenda of these governments, I mean, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu. Vis-a-vis the humongous challenge that we're dealing with regards to socio-economic concerns, all right? What's your candid assessment of the renewed hope agenda in terms of fixing the problem of poverty?
Yes, I've lived long enough in this country to understand that we beyond rhetoric and beyond semantics, we don't, as a nation, we are not very strong at implementation of policies. Okay, we've had beautifully crafted policies on paper that sound very well, like your renewed hope. They are gospelian programs. We don't need gospels. What we need is action. Action. Okay, we've had many programs that came before: Operation Feed the Nation, a Better Life program for women. There are many of them. There's a litany of programs that government have. The problem has always been implementation on a long-scale, sustained, level. For you to get any result from any blueprint, it has to be sustained, it has to be committed to, it has to be monitored, and it has to be reported on. So those four aspects of a plan must be put in perspective before you can get results. So yes, we have the plan. We have a vision that says renewed hope, beyond the rhetoric, beyond the talk, beyond the beautifully crafted stories. What is an action plan to ensure that each aspect of that blueprint is well communicated to all stakeholders? What is the action plan to implement it? What are the targets? What are the goals? You don't set a plan without having goals, measurable, actionable goals. So what is the goal of that program? What is the short-term goal? What's the medium-term goal? What is the long-term goal? That's number one. Number two, who are the critical stakeholders in ensuring that this program comes to fruition? Who are the critical stakeholders? How much investment cost will Nigeria need to set aside to put to ensure that this plan works? We should get beyond the conversations around the document and focus on the actioning of that document. Okay? Based on my knowledge about Nigeria, about my experience in this country, I'm not very optimistic about publicly touted policies. I am actually more in the definition of what happens in the action plan. What is the end result? Have we not seen many beautifully crafted policies before? What happened to the Millennium Development Goals all across Nigeria? What is the report? What was the performance? What happens to what is happening to the Sustainable Development Goals worldwide that we touted about? How has Nigeria made progress on that document? What has happened to the Trader Money Program? What progress was made? How can we measure the impact of that thing on the society? What happened to all the programs in the previous administration that we spent billions of naira pursuing? Who has been helped? What industries were created? What benefits were generated? We should stop having these short-term memory issues. We should be dealing with long-term problems, and we need bold decisions. We need a pragmatic approach to solutions, not a theoretical approach.
Destiny Owobu, economic and statistical analyst, I can't say thank you enough for the time and the insights that you have shared with us on the program this morning. We wish you the best of today.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. We're taking a quick break here, everyone. When we return, we'll talk about the significance of Eid al-Maulud and how Nigeria can leverage this very special moment to engender national cohesion and then build a country where religion and, of course, ethnicity will count for nothing, but the fact that the people can come together and form a common front going forward.